Welcome to The Explainer. Today we are diving headfirst into the amazing world of craft beer. And hey, if you've ever found yourself just staring at a brewery menu, completely overwhelmed, this explainer is absolutely for you. We're going to give you the keys to the kingdom so you can find a pint you truly love. Let's do it. Right? You know that feeling? You're looking at a chalkboard full of words like NEPA, GOS, IBU, and you're just thinking, where do I even start? Don't worry, we have all been there. I promise by the end of this, you are going to be navigating that menu like an absolute pro. Okay, so first things first, what does that word craft even mean? You see it everywhere, but it's not just some cool marketing buzzword. Nope. It actually has a very specific definition, and it's what really sets these breweries apart. So the Brewers Association kind of acts as the gatekeeper here, and they've got three main rules. First, you've got to be small. We're talking less than 6 million barrels a year. Second, you have to be independent. That means a giant corporation can't own more than a quarter of your brewery. And third, you have to be traditional. This is a big one. It means your beer's flavor has to come from real traditional ingredients like malted barley, not a ton of cheaper stuff like corn or rice that you sometimes find in mass-produced beers. But honestly, beyond all the rules, this is what it's all about. This is the heart of it. Craft brewing is about artistry. It's about passion. It's about brewers looking at a pint glass and seeing a blank canvas, an opportunity to create something bold, something flavorful, something you're gonna remember. So what actually goes into these amazing creations? Well, it's probably a lot simpler than you think. At its core, pretty much every single beer on this planet is made from just 4 basic building blocks. Yep, these are the 4 pillars right here. You've got water, which, that's most of what's in your glass. Then there's malt, which gives the beer its soul and its color. You have hops, which are like the spice rack. And then you have yeast, the little magic worker that does all the heavy lifting. Now, let's zoom in on the 2 that really create most of the flavor, the malt and the hops. Okay, so malt, which is almost always barley, is the absolute foundation of the beer. It does 2 crucial things. First, it provides all the delicious sugars that the yeast is going to eat later on to make alcohol. But just as important, the way that malt is roasted or killed is what gives a beer its color and a huge range of its flavors. Everything from a light, bready taste all the way to deep caramel, toffee, and even coffee notes. And now for the hops. I like to think of these little cone-like flowers as the spice of the beer world. Their main job is to provide bitterness, to balance out all that sweetness you get from the malt. But they do so much more. They're responsible for all those amazing aromas you smell. The citrusy, the piney, the floral, the tropical fruit notes. Oh, and fun fact, they also act as a natural preservative. All right, listen up. If you remember only one single thing from this entire explainer, please make it this. The entire world of beer, every single beer, is split into 2 massive families, ales and lagers. And what's the difference? It all comes down to that little magic worker we just mentioned, the yeast. And the difference is actually fascinatingly simple. Ales use a type of yeast that likes to hang out at the top of the tank and prefers warmer temperatures. This creates all sorts of complex, fruity, and spicy flavors. Think IPAs, stouts, wheat beers. Lagers, on the other hand, use a yeast that works at the bottom of the tank and loves the cold. This results in those super clean, crisp, and more subtle flavors we all know from things like Pilsners. So once you get your head around that big ale versus lager divide, the whole confusing world of beer styles just clicks into place. It all makes sense. So let's explore a few of the most popular branches you're going to see on that family tree. Let's start with the undisputed king of the craft beer scene, right? The IPA, or India Pale Ale. This is an ale that is all about showing off what hops can do. And the name? It comes from a bit of history. Way back when, British brewers packed their beer with extra hops, which remember, are a preservative, so that it wouldn't spoil on that long, hot sea voyage to British troops stationed in India. Pretty cool, huh? And the IPA world is just incredibly diverse now. You've got your classic American IPAs, which are famous for those big citrus and pine tree notes. Then you have the newer hazy or New England IPAs, which are way softer, less bitter, and super juicy. Imperial or double IPAs, well, they just crank everything up. More alcohol, more bitterness. And then session IPAs dial it all back so you can have a few without falling over. All right, let's move to the darker side of the ale family. Here we have stouts and porters. Both of these get their beautiful dark color and those rich flavors from heavily roasted malt. We're talking notes of coffee, chocolate, and toffee. So what's the real difference? Well, generally speaking, porters are just a little bit lighter in body and texture than their big, robust cousin, the stout. And we can't possibly forget wheat beers. As the name suggests, these are ales that use a whole lot of wheat in addition to the barley. This gives them a really distinctive, often cloudy look and a super smooth mouthfeel. The classic flavors you'll find here are things like banana, clove, or even a little citrusy spice. They are incredibly refreshing. Okay, now we need to talk about a huge mistake that so many people make. People look at a dark beer and they automatically assume, oh, that must be really strong or that's going to be super heavy. And that is just absolutely not the case. Remember, the color comes from the roasted malt. It has nothing to do with the alcohol content. And here is the perfect example. Look at this. A dark, rich-looking porter often has a totally reasonable alcohol content, right? Somewhere around 4.5 to 6%. Meanwhile, a beautiful, pale golden saison can be surprisingly strong, easily getting up into that 6 to 8% range. So, you see, it is all about the style, not the shade. Don't judge a beer by its color. All right, we're on the home stretch. Let's tackle the final piece of this puzzle, decoding those little acronyms you always see on the menu. We're going to break down the two most important stats you need to know, ABV and IBU. First up, we've got ABV, which stands for alcohol by volume. And you know what? This one's super straightforward. It's just a simple measurement of how much alcohol is in your drink. The higher the number, the stronger the beer. And yeah, the more you might want to think about sipping it slowly. As a good rule of thumb, most of the craft beers you're going to come across will fall somewhere in this 4 to 6% range. That's kind of the sweet spot. Once you start getting north of 7 or 8%, you're definitely getting into strong beer territory, so it's just something to be aware of when you're ordering. Next up is IBU. This stands for International Bitterness Units. This number is basically your guide to how bitter the beer is probably going to taste. It's a scale that measures the bittering compounds that come directly from the hops. So a higher IBU generally means a hoppier and, yep, more bitter beer. So you should really think of IBU as a spectrum. It's a roadmap for your palate. If you know you don't really enjoy bitter flavors, you want to look for styles with low IBUs, like a nice smooth cream ale. If you like a good balance, a pale ale is an amazing choice, right there in the middle. And if you are a true hophead who loves that bitter bite, well, my friend, you head straight for the high IBU IPAs on the right. And there you have it. That's your simple toolkit for understanding pretty much any beer menu out there. You just think about it in these layers. You start with the core ingredients. Then you remember the two big families, ale and lager. You explore the different styles within them. And then you just check the stats like ABV and IBU to know exactly what you're getting into. So you are no longer lost. You are officially equipped. You now have the map to navigate this huge, incredible world of craft beer. So the only real question left is, what are you going to explore first? Cheers!